This bike is the best bike that you can buy today. Absolutely beautiful September day here in New England, and today I'm going to give you guys a little review of my 2018 KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. It's a fucking mouthful, and I will make the bold statement and say that this is literally probably the best, if not one of the best motorcycles that you can buy today. This thing is pretty much just a big dirt bike in its simplest format, but the great thing is I would best describe it as a mix between a sport bike and a dirt bike, because this thing has sport bike level power but also has the off-road capabilities of a dirt bike, which is honestly fantastic. I would say it's the best of both worlds. I don't know what KTM did with the suspension on this bike, but you'll notice right away when you get on this thing that the turn-in is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, for a heavy motorcycle, you could really just pick a line and go. So this bike is powered by KTM's LC8 engine that puts out right around 160 horsepower and a little over 100 foot-pounds of torque, which is absolutely insane. Bike falls in the category of like a dual sport adventure motorcycle. So other motorcycles in its class are the BMW GS, the Ducati Multistrada, and the legendary Honda Africa Twin. So this is the beauty of having an adventure bike. You can just go off-road. So these bikes come absolutely loaded from the factory. I mean, for $19,000, I would really hope that they have a bunch of cool shit on them. To start off, there's 4 different ride modes you can choose from on this bike. I believe it goes off-road, rain, street, and sport. It has fully adjustable suspension, both front and rear, traction control, ABS. It even has cruise control. And the icing on the cake, it also has heated seat and heated grips. So for those of you that don't know, there is 2 types of KTM Super Adventures. There is the Super Adventure R, which is the bike that we're riding today, and then there is a Super Adventure S. So the Super Adventure S is like the more street-oriented version of this bike. There's pretty minor differences between the two. They're almost exactly the same, the only differences being the wheel setup and the suspension. This bike is electronically limited to I want to say like about 125 miles an hour, and that's due to the wheel and tire setup. If you see yourself doing much more street riding than dirt riding, the 1290 Adventure S is probably a better option for you. And if you're really concerned about the top speed, those bikes, I think they do closer to like 160 miles an hour. So you might hear a lot of people describe other motorcycles as not being a good motorcycle for beginners. This bike most certainly is not a beginner friendly bike, because you got to keep in mind this bike makes 160 horsepower and over 100 foot-pounds of torque. Like, it is a rocket ship of a motorcycle, especially when you have this bike in sport mode and have all the electronic assist turned off. Second gear, no clutch, comes right up. All right, third gear, no clutch, comes right up. Ooh, tire broke a little loose there. This thing is an absolute rocket ship. That's a dead squirrel. And this bike is really fast, but it's also really, really comfortable. And like, you can ride this bike for more than 2 hours without hating your life, and you really can't do that with a lot of traditional naked bikes or super sports. This thing makes a fantastic dirt bike, but it also makes a great road bike, and that is pretty hard to come by nowadays. Only the adventure bikes really offer that sort of thing. Compared to other motorcycles on the road, these things are especially rare. I mean, you really do not see these bikes on the road as often, and they are absolute neck breakers. I will say they get so much attention. This one is a 2018 model. I picked it up for 12,000 bucks, and honestly I think I got a pretty good deal on it because this thing has some pretty cool aftermarket parts on it. It had a little over 8,000 miles when I got it. Alright, so we're going to start off by saying that this bike has a little bit of extra crash protection on it. It has this Touratech upper crash bar. Usually they just come with this lower crash bar. That definitely comes in handy. Has a nice set of aftermarket hand guards. Obviously they serve their purpose of protecting your hands, but they definitely look pretty badass on this bike. I think it's got a Pro Taper handlebar and maybe a 2 or 3 inch riser, which is definitely nice. I would say the riding position, at least to me, is a little bit better than stock, with the bars being a little higher up. We have some aftermarket foot pegs. These ones are a lot bigger than the ones that come on them. So one of the most convenient modifications that this bike has, it has this aftermarket set of Touratech bags. The nice thing about these bags is this bag on the left can fit a full-size helmet, which definitely comes in handy. Especially if you do a lot of long distance riding, it's nice to be able to pack some stuff in your bags without an issue. This Wings Performance slip-on exhaust definitely makes the bike sound considerably better than stock. Absolute icing on the cake is a Rottweiler Performance airbox. The airbox mod paired with the aftermarket exhaust just makes this bike sound so mean. Like, the induction noise that this thing makes sounds insane. So in this review, I tend to rant and rave about how good of a motorcycle this is, but it is not to be ignored that this bike does have some cons to it. So, first con with this bike is simply that it is just a very tall motorcycle. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's too tall of a motorcycle, but I will say if you were under 6 feet, you were definitely going to have a hard time getting on and off this thing. My second little issue with this bike is that I'm not sure if this is due to the year that KTM may have fixed it with some of the newer models, but it does have some kind of quirky electrical faults that you will experience. So sometimes this bike gets random faults on the screen that really don't amount to anything. And then when you turn the bike off and turn it back on again, it seems to go away. Also, I've experienced like my headlights still being on while the bike is completely off, which is kind of interesting. So my third complaint with this bike is that it definitely gets really, really hot, like specifically like on your legs. I think it's partially attributed to this bike having a catalytic converter, but if you're riding this on a hot summer day, I mean, this thing is really like cooking your legs. I mean, the bike itself gets like really, really hot. So my fourth and final complaint with this motorcycle is, depending on how much time you spend going over 100 miles an hour, the front end is like really, really shaky and light. I would almost say it kind of gets like a little sketchy once you touch triple digits on this bike. And that is mostly attributed to the 21-inch front wheel. You have to keep in mind that this is an adventure bike and it's more of like a dual sport, so it's meant for off-road use. So the best thing by far with these adventure bikes is just having the capability of going off-road whenever the fuck you want. It's so nice, and it just opens up your riding options. I mean, you could be cruising down like a nice open road and you just see a trail on your right side and nothing's stopping you from going down that and just going for a little adventure. Some of the best fun that you can have on these bikes is just blasting them down hard packed gravel roads and just like kicking the tire out, sliding around. It is just such a blast. Obviously these things are considerably heavier than dirt bikes, so you definitely feel the weight of the motorcycle, but they're very capable. They have good suspension travel, And I mean, they're just solid machines. I'll do a more in-depth off-road review when the time comes. I'm not really near anything too extravagant right now, so thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it.